Exactly, don't reveal, it's crazy.
It's like an Ava.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is Curb Knight, finally coming back at you with another fight replay. It's been a while, so hopefully I'm not too rusty. And what a way to come back. Of course, this is me on the right playing Avantgarda with the new support from set 10. The deck is honestly just like so much better. Like, you would be surprised at how much 2 cards, or really specifically just 1 card, how much of a difference it makes for the entire deck as a whole. Anyways, I'm going to be going up against Zorga here, going first, which is where you want to be if you are Avantgarda. And I'm actually off to a really good start here. I am actually going to be discarding the occasion for riding up, which is actually the very best discard you can have. And of course, in my new build, I am actually going to be playing the Black Grade 1, which lets you set Emrachan straight from your deck. Now, I did technically cheat a little bit here because I didn't read my cards. The black actually doesn't add it to your hand, as you saw me do there. It actually sets it directly into the order zone, meaning that it does actually have some anti-synergy with occasion. But you saw me use occasion there to put the set order from the order zone and then just basically just cycle, which is one of the uses that I definitely underestimated occasion for. But I actually am not supposed to be allowed to do that, because the one stipulation on occasion is that you can't have put an order into your order zone by a card effect this turn. A restriction that would have been very helpful on a card like Moe Flash. But since the Grade 1 Black actually does set it to your order zone, you can't actually use occasion on your first turn. So I forgot that. It doesn't really impact anything. I probably would have just used the occasion on this turn. As we're going to be seeing, it's not really going to make too big of a difference, but if you're going to be playing this build specifically with Camera-Chan, do keep that in mind, that you actually can't occasion on your first turn if you are playing the Black Ride line. But anyways, moving on to my second turn, we did have a Harvest Elf swinging in at the Vanguard. I went ahead and took it because I do want to have CB in case I have a Hathaway in my hand, which I just happened to draw off, I think, for turn here. And then, of course, we swung with the Vanguard, going to throw down the front trigger, even though it was a little bit of a waste, but it was well worth it, considering that the drive check was a critical trigger, so I basically just saved myself on 2 damage. Of course, here I am going to just be calling the Ace unit. We saw that I drew to another occasion there, so we have the second one set up into the drop zone, whether we want to use it to a cycle, which I have been learning has been a really good use of it, or, just for the late game, where you start running out of set orders, and you just need that 1 extra set order per turn, and then just being able to set it from drop makes it so good. Anyways, I'm actually going to be adding a Persona Ride off of the Ace unit. Thanks to the Camera-Chan, I do actually have the 2 set orders needed to check top 5 over 3, which is another advantage of Camera-Chan. If you're playing regular Avantgarde, you're only going to have 1 set order at this point, unless you draw into the occasion. But, being able to have the occasion and draw into the set order just means that I'm able to use it much more effectively. I did actually misplay there. You can Soul Blast 1 and call it the Camera-Chan as a 5k booster, which I should have done, and just throw it behind the Ace unit, because that makes both of my columns 20k, meaning that they both just hit over a defensive. But as you can see, it's not really going to matter too much, just because, my opponent's just going to choose to not guard either of them and get 0 defensives. Moving on to Zorga, finally talking about what they're doing. Off the Grade 1, looks like they found a Gather Upon Ye Wandering Souls, which is actually eroded. They're going to be playing it here. They're not going to be paying the full cost. They have to actually, reveal the Zorga, but, who cares? Anyways, they're going to be playing their own Ace unit first here, checking the top 7 cards of the deck. Not really looking like a good one off the top there. We're actually just going to mill a Shadow Cloak. Not great to mill, like maybe you wanted to mill an order there. That's just me speaking with a little bit of foresight, as you will soon see. But the Shadow Cloak is not really a great revive target because it has the Stoicheia Curse on it. It only gets its skill when you place from hand. So instead, we're going to end up calling out the Harvest Elf, playing Gather Upon Me, Ye Wandering Souls, and discarding the Blitz order there, calling back the RPT here and giving it an extra 10k power. Now, I'm looking at this board. I'm seeing 15k, 10k with Twin Drive, and a 20k column. I'm like, I'm not guarding any of this, so I am not going to guard any of it. So I'm just going to take that. I don't have a 15k in my shield in my hand, otherwise I would have just used it for the Vanguard. But we do see a front trigger there. making that RPD column a 30k, which obviously I'm not going to be guarding that either. So I am sitting at 4-2 here, but honestly, I'm feeling pretty chill. Like, I'm going first. As long as I can make it to my Persona Ride turn, I think I am pretty golden. You do see that I have the Elementaria, so in case things do actually go south, I do have that extra PG there, just in case I need it. But as things are going now, you know, everything's going according to plan. So considering I was able to draw into the Resilience off just, you know, and then set it with the Occurrence, or it's not, what is this thing? Whatever. Anyways, I'm just going to be adding the Dusting from deck. I do play one of Copy Still the Dusting because I think it is just a solid effect. The extra 10k is nice. It gives you that power bonus at the start, and then, you know, preventing the intercepting and the blitz orders can definitely come up in a lot of matchups. So I'm still just going to keep it. And obviously you do want to have as many strategy orders as possible, and it definitely helps to have different names since we are still playing something like Auto Leader Dente, meaning that she is going to enable us to get more orders than we would if we were just playing like 2, say. Anyways, gonna go and proc the Avantgarda skill there, sucking up the Resilience, which is always supposed to be your first set order for turn, giving ourselves that first skill. So if this attack does not hit, then that just means that we are going to be able to, you know, add an Avantgarda. So you see me calling the Macy Distance here, and I'm actually not going to be using its effect. Literally, the only thing I'm doing here this for is to Soul Blast out the Resilience, get it out of my soul, which is something technically Camera-chan could have done by itself. So Macy showing her one use there. Technically, she does have a check top 5 for EV3, but I wanted to save my energy for the Sabine there. So I'm just going to call her, Soul Blast 1, call nothing, and then just call Sabine from hand to add back the Resilience. And of course, I'm going to use the Occurrence, whatever his name is. I already forgot. I know it's Occasion. I'm going to use Occasion there to set the Resilience that I just added to my hand to basically just draw another card. So I'm just using the Occasions as, you know, just cycle, you know, just from the drop, just put a non-shield from my hand into the order zone, set it up, and then, you know, get ready for next turn, just draw a card. Now, my opponent is going to be perfect guarding my Vanguard swing, so that's just going to allow me to add the Richter, which is the last piece that I am missing. We already added the Persona Ride, now we have the Richter, so we are all set for next turn. We even have the 2 set orders there. The one thing we are missing is the Death Winds, but of course we do have a decent number of ways to actually get into it. As we are going to be swinging for our last 2 attacks there, I gave the heal trigger power there to the ace unit just because it hits for a nicer number, 30 versus the 23, which would have just been 33. It doesn't really matter, but it's just, you know, a little bit more of an annoying number, especially since both of them are already hitting. So my opponent is going to be riding up into the Zorga here. So damage is tied at 3-3. So I'm still, that heal trigger definitely did help a lot. This first turn is going to be, I guess, a little bit scary, but, you know, Zorga is a deck that does tend to skill, so I'm not too worried about just, like, dying here, just because, you know, I also do have that perfect guard to fall back on. We did have a little bit of a cut here because my camera started running low on battery, so I kind of made a frantic attempt to charge it. It did not turn out well, but basically what happened here is my opponent played Mythiarch Habitat, and unfortunately, it seems like their best call target was a Sea Rumble Brave Shooter, which, just as I think about it, it's kind of an interesting choice. Like, I guess, do you have the extra energy for it? But unfortunately, the only other order that we had was the Gather Upon Me, and my opponent told me he didn't have an order in hand other than the Habitat, so he was unable to Alchemy Magic, which is going to basically just turn his turn into a Wet Noodle turn. Right here, I'm kind of thinking, do I want to risk the 2 to pass? Because, like, there's a good chance that my opponent is desperate enough. And I do have the perfect guard. I could just, like, not risk it here. But I figure, oh, if he gets OT, I do want him stacking everything onto his Vanguard. Because I do only have the 1 perfect guard. So first check is going to be a crit. I'm a little scared. My opponent is going to stack everything on the Vanguard. So if he gets a second crit, it is going to be just the end of me. Or it would be if I didn't end up hitting a 5th damage OT. Which is, you know, just going to blank the turn. But thankfully that second trigger was a heal. My opponent was supposed to heal down here, but as you are going to see in this next turn, it's actually not really going to matter. Trust me when I say that. Anyways, going to be swinging the 35 in at the ace unit. I was considering protecting it, just because, you know, I want to keep strong attackers. Swinging this other column for 25. My opponent, I believe, said 10. We forgot about the extra 5k that Zorga does give them. Doesn't really make that much of a difference since, you know, I had the front, so I would have just committed the front because I want to keep the Sabine because she's just my best attacker here. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and start off with the Persona Ride. Slide in the Resilience this time using the second skill. So if my Vanguard does get ridden over, the place unit is going to get all the trigger effects and all the effects from strategy orders. So off that draw, I am actually going to see the Olager Dente, which is the final piece that I needed in order to set up perfect combo. As we're going to go ahead and call it, Soul Blast out the Resilience, get it into the drop zone, and then add the Death Winds to our hand. And then, of course, we haven't played in order yet, so we're going to go ahead and play the Death Winds, and then we're going to go ahead and rewrite the Vanguard by binding our Vanguard and rewriting into Richter, or I guess you say Richter write the Vanguard. No, that doesn't work. Anyways, we're going to use Richter to give him the skill of Death Winds, so whenever he attacks front row units, get an extra 5k power. So this turn is where Avantgarda gets nuts. If you can survive this turn, you're pretty good, but, you know, I've never really been on the receiving end of this kind of turn, but it is absolutely insane. This is going to be the weakest swing of the turn, swinging in for 33. But of course, you know, it is a Vanguard swing, and this is the only Vanguard swing that does actually have Twin Drive, making it that much scarier. Not to mention, if you're in this situation, your opponent is going to stack everything on the Vanguard, because not only is it going to restand, but it's also going to keep all those triggers. As you're going to see me hit a critical trigger here, I'm just going to throw everything on the Vanguard, because it is keeping that crit until the end of this turn. So we're going to go ahead and restand with the Avantgarda skill, swinging in for the second attack here for that 48k, 2 damage, but 1 drive check. And as we're doing that, our other columns are powering up. They're getting 5,000 power from their own skills, and they're also getting another 5,000 power from the Death Winds, so a cumulative power of 10,000. So my opponent is going to go OT to pass here, committing 4 cards to guard that. I'm not going to get anything on the drive check. You know, just, you know, he's a little unfortunate, restanding Vanguard and everything. But now we can use the Richter skill, choosing 2 cards from the hand, and then just discarding them. We are going to be rewriting into the Avantgarda. Now, something to remember when you do this, the new Avantgarda gets 10k power, but it doesn't get the extra 10k that you from the extra Death Winds. It gets another 5k when it attacks, but since it wasn't on the field when you attack with the Death Winds, it loses 10k. But of course, keeping the trigger effects is going to make it a 2 damage swing here. So my opponent should be at 4 here as they take 2 non-defensives. But as you can see, they have 3 cards in hand, and this first swing is for 60, and the other column would have been for 58. So regardless of whether they were at 2 or 3, they were just dying that turn. But that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to do those 2 things. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.